Hello and welcome back to Blue Tinted Glasses. It is Wednesday, 7 o'clock, which means it's time for. There you go, Neil. Nice one. It is 7 o'clock on a Wednesday, which means it's time for Fox's Den, as it is every week, apart from 2 weeks ago because of the United Cup game. Doing something a little bit differently today. Instead of doing previews for games, instead Fox's Den from now on will just be more of a certain topic. So we will talk about a certain thing every single week. And this week, as you can tell by the title, it is all about Steve Cooper, of course. Any excuse to have a moan, lads, any excuse. So it's going to be all about Steve Cooper. So throughout the stream, I want to get everybody's opinions on what we are talking about. So please make sure to comment in the chat throughout the live stream. And let's get into it. And Neil, mate, how are you doing today, pal?
Well, we always say this, when it's international break, it does feel a little bit dead, doesn't it? So bring on the football. 3 international breaks already. It seems a lot more than usual. Am I wrong in saying that? I thought the third one was normally in February or something. Anyway, whatever. I'm all right.
Good. Josh, how are you doing, mate? How's uni? How's you still meeting with the stars? All Brighton. Who have you been with this week, mate? Mahrez or something?
Yeah, just popped down to see Vardy a few days ago, but yeah, no. But yeah, I'm all good. I'm not actually too bothered about the international break because the last few games have been a bit awful. So I'm happy for a break and we can get back into it against Chelsea.
Absolutely. And mate, I've seen you been smashing out the content. How you doing?
Yeah, all good, mate. All good. As Josh says, I'm kind of thankful for the break, but then to come back to Chelsea, I'm just going to enjoy the time of not having Leicester.
Yes, mate. I think we would have all been happy with an international break if it meant we lost the manager during it. But as the days go on, as the hours go on, it looks like that isn't going to happen this time around. So let's go into it straight away. Obviously, the manager, Steve Cooper. To answer Graham's question, no, he's not gone. He is still here. And Neil, there's been a lot of speculation around over the last few days since the Manchester United game. Some of it has been fueled by a couple of people on this panel, including myself. Maybe it was wishful thinking, but are you surprised, Anil, that he's not gone, or is this what you expected?
Unfortunately, it's what I expected, but it's disappointed. I mean, I got to say, I was getting excited when some rumors started spreading because that would have made me impressed. I think the thing that's just so disappointing is that we can all see it. It's a car crash in slow motion. We know how this movie ends. Why can't the board? So unfortunately, that means they either don't care or they're too stupid to realize it. One of those two things is true. So what's going to happen? Everyone's already putting it in chat here. Is we're going to probably go another month, another 6 weeks or something, and then we're going to sack him anyway. And then the next person's going to come in, and it's going to be like, will that person have enough time? And they might not get that time. And we've seen this story before. And how did it end? It ended with us in the championship. If that happens again, it's going to be so frustrating. Look, we could appoint another person and still go down. Fine. But I think everyone's will take that risk right now. So I don't want to steal too much of the thunder because I'm sure other people are going to say other things. But it's just disappointing because I think you can see, even amongst the most ardent fans, that you can just see what's coming.
Absolutely. Ant, let me ask you this, mate. And it's the thing that's on my mind the most. What is the point in keeping him when we have real tough games coming up? And some of us are expecting us to lose quite a few games out of the next 5, maybe all of them. Some fans would say all of them we're going to lose. But even if we don't lose all of them, if we lose 4 of the next 5, for example, it will be the same situation. The fans will want Cooper out. Allegedly, the players might want him out. Mm-hmm. So what is the point in keeping him for them games? Why not just do it now?
I agree with you. The most logical time would be now, whilst there's an international break, gives a new manager time to spend with the players. Because I know we've got a few out on international duty, but it's nowhere near as many as we used to have going out on international duty. Just playing devil's advocate, and I don't believe this for a second, but it's just what the only reason I could think about is maybe they don't want to drop a new manager into the run that we're about to have. And they want, if there's a new manager to come in, to have a little bit more of a favourable run. I mean, I don't believe that, and I don't think that's the way that they'll look at it. But that's the only other other chance that I can really see.
It's a very good point, Josh. What do you make to that? I was thinking that as well as I was speaking. But, let's say you brought in a new manager and you've got the fixtures that we have. You think that could be a part of the board's thinking, or do you think we're just overthinking that? Do you just think they're not ready to make the change?
No, I think yeah, I see where Ant's coming from, but I don't think it's something the board would consider. And I think even if that was the case, it is the Premier League. You're always going to have tough games, no matter what, really. So I think it's always going to be hard to get someone in. And even if Leicester did get a new manager in, you do get the manager bounce, so it could work the other way against it as well. So yeah, I don't think so. But yeah, I think the board will be waiting. We can see what's going to be happening. And it feels like we're just repeating the exact same as the season we got relegated. We all said it. Sack Rodgers, international break, sacked him in the last international break or around then. It was too late. So hopefully history doesn't repeat itself.
Yeah, I mean, Anil, we talk about the Rodgers season and how we picked up a few wins before the World. Because if the form from the start of the season in that year had carried on all the way through to the World Cup, trying to give a bit of credit to Top, you'd think that he would have made the decision then to sack Rodgers. But because of that little run that we had, a bit of good form before the World Cup, we believe that kind of papered over the cracks. But there wasn't any of that leading up to this. Yes, we got a point from Ipswich, who were down to 10 men. We've been, I say, embarrassed, against United. It wasn't a 1 out of 10 performance, but it wasn't. I mean, there was just nothing really from our side. So why do you think he hasn't been sacked? Do you think it is just because Top believes he can get us out of it? He can improve form. What do you think it is?
No, the real reason is, I don't know if people are familiar with this, but King Power Group, they've said this quite a few times, that their belief is in long-term strategy. So it's like different ways that you can run a company, right? So you can be more about living in the moment. And then there's other types of people that are more like, we've got a plan, we're going to stick to the plan, and it might not work out and it might get rough to begin with, but eventually it will work out. And to give an example of maybe a plan that looked stupid to begin with, but might actually be having results, are our next opponents, which is Chelsea. Everyone thought they were mental. They're playing Football Manager. They're signing all these youngsters. But now this season, they got a really good manager because they stole ours. They got this really good young squad, and they're probably going to get better and better. And you're seeing that Man City are starting to have a fall off. And my expectation is I think Chelsea are going to be the dominant team in English football probably in the next 1 or 2 years' time. So that's one reason why you might keep a long-term strategy. And King Power, that's the reason that they made their fortune. I know Vichai has said this, right? And also with Leicester, they bought it. And one of the things they said is they bought the club. Their intent was to get it into the Premier League. The intent was to get it into Europe. And the intent was to be competing for big prizes, right? And they said those things quite a few times and everyone laughed at them. And then we got promoted to the Premier League and they said we're going to have European football within 5 years. And everyone laughed at them. And then a season later, we won the Premier League title. So that's why I think they're the way that they are. And that's why if you want to bring up the sacking history, generally speaking, compared to many other clubs, Leicester City are not a club that is rash. What I will say though, just to go against my point slightly, is the one person that I think is most like Cooper. Actually, no, let me ask this question to you, Lots. Of all these people that we've sacked, which one is the one that is most like Cooper in the sense that maybe it felt a bit unusual that they were sacked, but they were sacked quite early?
Well, Shaky.
Yeah, Shaky. So Shaky came in and he actually had credit in the bank. He got us to a Champions League quarter-final. He kept us up. He did really well. If you ask me, he absolutely deserved to get the job based off that. But we ended that season quite badly, you might remember. And then we started the next season pretty poorly as well. And I think we had a home game against West Brom. And you know what? It looked a lot like a Steve Cooper performance, if I'm being honest. And that was the one. I think Vichai might still have been in charge. But they were just like, nah, this guy, I know we made a mistake. I know he was our assistant, but he wasn't ready to be a manager. Let's go and get a proper manager. So they sacked him. So that I found interesting. Because if you ask me, although Steve Cooper's technically a manager, that's what I'm seeing out there. That's why everyone's concerned, right? Is you're seeing someone who's managing, but are they not thinking that they made a mistake? Because everyone else has realized. I can understand why we gave him a chance, but everyone says judge them 10 games in, and it's not about the position in the table. You can just see the underlying data and the eye test. and you know where it's going. And on the shaky, we weren't in the relegation zone either. Just want to say, and they still.
I think we just dropped in. I think we just dropped in on the last game with shaky.
Oh really?
Okay. But so just because I did research earlier, Anil, 6 points from 8 games we were on with shaky when he was sacked. I think he won 8 out of 16 games. I think he only managed Leicester for 16 Premier League games, and we won 8 of them. But obviously, the majority of them came the season before when he was appointed. I'm going to disagree with you slightly on one thing, Anil, though, and it was about the rash. You mentioned about them not being rash. Now, I look at it and I think they are all quite rash, except for, well, Sousa was. You could say it's rash. Seven, you could say is quite rash. It's earlier than now, basically. Shaky, you could say the same. But obviously, Ranieri, in my eye, he won the Premier League. They were going to give him as long as they possibly could. The Claude Puel one, I genuinely think it was because of what happened that season.
Everyone knows that. Everyone knows that.
And the Rodgers one, again, you could probably say it's because of the credit in the bank like Ranieri had. He won us the FA Cup. We finished 5th twice. We had European runs. But all the other 3, Sosa, Sven Goran Eriksson, and Craig Shakespeare, you could say they were all quite quick. They were quite quick.
Sven had a year, though, didn't he? So that was his second season, and it wasn't improving. Sousa, that was quite harsh, to be honest with you. That did surprise me. And I thought early on to their reign, I thought we were going to be the Chelsea.
But he wasn't their manager, was he? They didn't appoint him.
That's true.
Mandarich.
That's why.
Yeah.
That's why.
But they were also, none of those were sacked by Top.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say.
Puel was.
But and as you mentioned, I don't think he would have been there for anywhere near as long if he hadn't, obviously, if the tragedy hadn't happened.
Well, I heard a rumor, Josh, I'll come to you on this. I heard a rumor. I have no idea whether this is true. I literally read it yesterday or the day before that obviously Pearson isn't here because these are just mid-season sackings. Obviously, Pearson was sacked at the end of the season after the Thai gangbang or whatever it was, but the orgy. Sorry, but Josh, I heard a rumor that in that season, the Great Escape season, Vishai wanted to sack Pearson earlier, and Top convinced him not to. And if you take that into account, along with obviously Puel lasting until February, Rodgers lasting until April, maybe Top is the soft one. Do you think that could be the case? Maybe he is just the soft one or the indecisive, poorly advised. I don't know, but is that maybe that is, don't know. What do you think to that? Because let's be honest, most of the bad decisions at Leicester City since King Power took over have all been whilst it's been Top in charge, hasn't it?
Yeah, no, 100%. I hate to say it, but I think Top, I wouldn't say the problem, but I think he's not been as good as Vich. I don't want to compare him like that, but if you look at someone like Ranieri, yes, he had credit in the bank, but look how quick he went. Rodgers, yes, he had credit in the bank, but he was. I know the season wasn't as bad as where we were before Ranieri got sacked, but Rodgers was here for far too long. And Top, you could say the same in Puel. Obviously, that season a lot happened then, but yeah, I think Top is the man who's looking for that long term kind of goal. And if you get promoted to the Premier League, you appoint someone like Steve Cooper. Is there a long term goal? I just don't think so. I think you have to be a bit more rash in these type of areas because. Yes, when Leicester brought Rodgers in, it was a long-term plan. Yeah, we had a great group of players coming through. They were young. We were in a good position financially, etc. We had back-to-back 8th place finishes, I think it was, and we could push on from there. But right now, is there a long-term anything for Leicester right now? In my opinion, it's just staying up, and then you try and build from there. I think as of right now, it's pretty hard to try and build something instead of just Premier League safety.
Well, but so I'm going to come to you in a second. Before we focus more on Cooper, this is a question I will put out to the 3 of you, and whoever wants to take it can take it. A lot of people, and I think fair enough, are very hesitant to throw any form of criticism at Top, at the board, because of what King Power, I suppose, have done for the club. You've touched on it a bit there, Josh. I touched on it a little bit as well. What do we all think to Top? His leadership since he has been solely in charge of the football club? I open up to any of you to kind of chime in here and give me some,
I think it's one that's difficult because he's inherited the club. It's never something that he actively went and got and sort of wanted, and obviously the way that he inherited it as well. Like, can only imagine sort of how difficult that would be. He's put faith in people who I think he's put way too much faith in people that are not helping him. So, but at the end of the day, how long can you keep saying that? It's like, at some point you've got to say, well, why are they still here? Why is Rudkin, why is Whelan and sort of that board still here? There's only one person who's keeping them here.
And Neil, I always talk about this every time I talk about this situation, this topic. I always try and break it down in the way I look at it, which is very simple. I look at it as in like, if a chance, if a goal scoring opportunity is missed on the pitch, like Ndidi, that's Ndidi's fault. If Ndidi underperforms constantly and he keeps being played, that's the manager's fault. If the manager isn't good enough or isn't getting the great results, that's on the people above him to make the decision. We believe it's Rudkin, but who knows? And then if Rudkin isn't doing his job, it's on the top man, top. So is that a too of a simple way to look at it, or what do you think about that?
I do think it is a bit of a simplistic way to think about it, because I think the thing that never gets taken into account when people discuss things like this is that we're very emotional people and we think about the here and now. And what I'm saying is that if you're running a massive multinational company, right, it's pretty difficult. Might not look difficult, but I'm telling you it's difficult, right? And creating a culture and harmony is pretty difficult to do. Now, I don't think Leicester's culture is the best, but there's definitely something about it, because I would still say, relative to the size of the club and the number of fans that it has outperformed its expectations over, let's say, a 10 to 15 year period. And I'm not even just talking about the Premier League one, which is obviously ridiculous, but even taking that account, given how much the squad value was, they've gone into Europe a few times, they've won trophies, they've got promotions, etc., etc. And you could even say that, look at last year, right? We got relegated to the Championship, but we did win it right away. They did something, right, with the same people. They almost blew it. It could have gone wrong, but they didn't. So it's almost like there's definitely positive aspects about the culture at Leicester. So I get it. I do agree, for what it's worth, that I do think some people have been in the job too long and they probably do need a bit of freshening up. But the thing is with businesses like that is that, let me give you an example in real life, right? So Microsoft was the biggest company in the world, and Bill Gates is like, right, time to relax. Look forward to my money. So he steps down and they put this guy called Steve Ballmer in charge. And then Microsoft throw it all away. He goes, mobile phones, waste of time. We don't need to do that. And Apple ends up as the biggest tech company. He ends up getting sacked. And now another guy comes in and finally they sort of retake their place on the throne. So that's the problem, is if you start changing these things at the top, it will have these massive ramifications a bit later down the line, right? So he obviously trusts the group of people that he's with. Now, I do agree. I think that there should be some other things in there and get some experience, but he's like a young guy. So I'm sort of playing both ends here, which is a bit cheeky of me. But I understand why those people are in charge and what they're trying to do. But I think it needs a bit of a tweak. But if you compare it to some other clubs, like, a lot of other clubs are in massive states of, disrepair and things like that. And comparatively, we're doing better than them. So I don't know, unless you get like proper new, I mean, just to put it out there as well, what kind of owners would you want instead, right? Do you want to be like Newcastle, owned by the Saudis? Don't know. Do you want some weird US investment company thing taking you over and playing Football Manager in real life? Maybe you do. I don't know. I know some younger fans do want that, right? There's something I will say about Leicester that I like, which is that I think it does have like a bit of a family vibe to it, which I quite like. Sorry,
I agree with that to an extent, but you say about the family vibe sort of stuff. Over the last few years, I've found that disappearing massively. It's like if I want to take my two nieces to a game, I'm looking at like 120 quid minimum. And it's like, there's so much stuff that you used to think.
Rich family vibes.
Yeah. And it's like, I think the club gets so much right, but I do think it is moving further and further away from a family club that we were 5-10 years ago.
And that happened with the atmosphere as well.
Yeah. I think the PR from the club in the last few years has just been very strange, I think, in terms of all the things off the field and on it. But just back on the top quickly. Obviously, Vichai was, the lead businessman at King Power. I don't know how involved Top was in that. So I honestly think Top is pretty much putting everything on the people below him and Rookie and Whedon, etc. And that's the reason why we're not seeing that much change. I don't know if that's exactly true or whatnot, but that's the way I see it. I think Top is potentially struggling in the kind of leadership way, potentially. So I think that's one aspect to try and look at it.
Well, I mean, we all know Gwilym Balaguer, right? Enzo's mouthpiece last season, of course. He was on the When You're Smiling podcast back in, I think it was March, April, and they were talking about the future if we got promoted. Owen Palmer-Atkin asked, do you get the feeling from Enzo that there is a cutthroat decision-making from the board above? This was when we were talking a lot about the PSR stuff and there was a lot of criticism towards the board at this point. And Gwilym Balaguer said, I don't know, I can't talk on his behalf, but it's important that football is fluid and you can't make the same decisions or act in the same way you did 3, 4, 5 years ago. I'm not going after anyone in particular, but everyone needs to sit down and discuss if the club can put in place the foundations to make sure they don't go down again next season. The foundations are more important than any signing you can make. Do you think, lads, there have been any foundations put in place that has us in a better place than it was 2 years ago? Because I don't think so at all. Ant?
No.
I think there was, and we've done a complete 180 on that by appointing Steve Cooper. And it's like, if we'd had a good transition from a manager that carried on with what Enzo was doing, then I think you could say, yeah, and we're heading in the right direction. But to completely go backwards on everything that was done last year, it's like we will all solve this process, and this sort of like reset. And I think we all were behind that, and you could see the idea last year. To then go, like, just because Enzo's gone, and I know they weren't expecting Enzo to go, but then to go and get a manager that completely goes against that that puts everything that they did last year in the bin.
Just quickly, do you know how they even ended up appointing Maresca in the first place? Do you know this story?
Well, I know he wasn't the first choice.
It wasn't that he wasn't the first choice. He was recommended to the club by people in the game. This is something that's quite interesting about Leicester. It's happened quite a few times where rather than them knowing about football, they do have some good advisors. And those advisors have told them on occasion, like, oh, it'd be a good one. And so basically they said to him, yeah, you should go and speak to Enzo Maresca. He's like the most promising young manager in the country. He's worked for Pep. I reckon it could work for you. And they spoke to him and they appointed it. So basically, it's good and bad, right? Again, it's like my culture sort of thing. They ended up getting a really good thing, but they sort of fluked their way into it rather than going about thinking about it. So
they tried to appoint Jesse Marsh, and that was going to be with him, with the intention of him, even if we got relegated, staying. So
he turned us down.
Yeah, even if he took us down, but that was, and luckily he rejected us. But it's like the frustrating thing is, it felt like we were really heading in the right direction under Enzo and going forward. And this is part of why I don't think they will sack Steve Cooper, because it's saying if you do it this early on, it takes someone with bollocks to put their hands up and say, yeah, we've got this massively wrong. And I think there's an element of like them they'll be too stubborn to admit it this quickly.
Josh, Ant mentioned it there about, Jesse Marsh idea maybe was he could bring us back up. Steve Cooper now, of course, has championship experience. This is a question I've asked on another stream before in the past, but do you think one plus to bringing Cooper in was the championship experience if we went down? And if you do think that might be the case, does that mean that they're willing to give him until the championship to keep him even if we go down?
I think having that opinion from the offset's just stupid, isn't it? Really, people bang.
Well, we had the points deduction in the works. To be fair,
that was true. But even so, I think if you go into the season with a thought with the manager saying, "Oh, if we go back down, he's got experience," it's just not really the right mindset, in my opinion. You could say it is realistic, yes, but surely you want to be aiming more than that. But yeah, I think the whole thing about Cooper, because people said when he first got appointed, he's got Premier League experience, and look what's happened with that. So I think you can look at it both ways, but I just think in terms of the appointment, it's just, I don't know. I completely agree what you guys have said. I think the board are too scared to really turn around and say, look, we've messed up, let's sack him. I think they're going to try and leave it as long as they possibly can. Try and hopefully pray that Cooper can turn it around. Then they can say, oh, it worked out in the end. But as of right now, it's just only going one way.
Anil, as the tactical genius on Blue Tinted Glasses, talk to me, mate. I mean, this is our season after 11 games with Steve Cooper. What do you even say about this mess, mate?
I'm going to quote my mate Tripe and Onions. Sadly, he's not in chat today. One word, crap.
And this is what we're talking about, isn't it, Ant? About, you know, when people say, oh, well, you're 15th. You can't start your manager when you're 15th. He's doing a good job. Where did you expect to be? But, you know, that is literally looking on the face of it. If you look under it, this is what you see. This is what we've watched for 11 games, right?
Yeah, this is why people who don't watch us and don't watch 90 minutes, they can put their opinion in the bin as far as I'm concerned. So if you don't watch us, I don't care. And that's why I'm so fed up of hearing opposition fans saying, oh, you're 15th. What do you expect? What I expect is to see more than one good half of football in a month.
Yeah, can I just say on that as well?
Yeah,
what I find interesting is, say under Rodgers, to defend him a little bit, we were like at one point bottom of the table a few times, but there were actually some games where we actually had really good performances over 90 minutes. We beat Forest 4-0. I think we beat Wolves 4-0 or something like that as well.
Yeah.
We beat Spurs. We had quite a few games where, to defend the team a little bit and even the ownership, that it did look like we'd rallied. And actually, this is going to sound controversial, but I think in January, it was the signings that we made that took us down, because we signed Harry Souttar, flop, Victor Christensen, still flopping to this day, and Tete has ended up in Greece, right? If one of those signings had turned out to be good, probably would have got the 2 to 3 points more and we'd have stayed up. Look, I still think Rodgers should have gone, but I am saying, like, actually, if you compare the two, like, I think the worst thing about Cooper, as you say, is it not only are we got 15th, but like, we as fans probably don't think we deserve to be 15th. That's the crazy thing. We know that we've gotten away with it, right? It's not even that you feel hard done by. It was not like, you know, the Pearson season where they did the Great Escape. There were plenty of games in that one where we were playing pretty good, but not getting the rub of the green. This season, I think we've got the rub of the green, and we're still rubbish. That is alarming.
And it's going to run out, isn't it? It's going to run out.
It is running out. You're seeing it in real time.
It's catching us up.
Yeah, I mean, Josh. I mean, again, I'll bring this up, but the only stat here that we're outside the bottom three on are big chances. Josh, have we seen? So we've got 2 wins in the league. Yeah, 2 wins in the league. First of all, I'll ask: have either of them been convincing wins? Because I don't think they have been. I don't think they have been.
No chance.
One of them was a red.
Even the draws as well. Ipswich red. It's like.
Well, I said this to Anil the other day, so I'll ask it to you, Josh. Have we even seen a convincing point? Genuinely, that is how. Like, have we seen a convincing point in this season?
Well, let's try and go through it. Tottenham, 2 completely different halves from minute 1. Everton was at the next point, weren't convincing. Palace, maybe an absolute push, but even then we bottled it. So that should have been 3 points, really, if you want to try and look at it like that. So. Probably not, in my opinion. And yes, look, we said it for weeks, so that's the thing. It's been like this from minute 1 of the whole season. It's been kind of papering over the cracks. Yes, we tried to draw the positives from it because, you know, we got back-to-back wins. It was looking good. And then now it seems to go straight back to the start. So I don't think it's been a convincing performance, really, for the whole season. Just like Ant said, you want to see more than just one good half in the space of 4 games or something like that. It's just so inconsistent from Leicester, and you're never going to stay up. But the thing is, to stay up in the Premier League this year, all you need is a few good runs throughout the season, and you're pretty much there. We've seen it already this season. You win Southampton, you beat Bournemouth, and you're right up there. We had a massive lead, and now that's come to catch us back up. So it ebbs and flows. But yeah, I don't think anything's been convincing at all. And I think that's the worrying thing, because if we were sat here and we were 19th with less points but playing better, I'd probably be a bit more positive about it. But I'm not.
It is, because it is like the opposite to the Great Escape season, isn't it? Because we were playing quite well in them games, and you watched them games and you thought, like, we genuinely don't deserve to be in the bottom 3 the way we've played, and there was that feeling that eventually we would start winning games, and obviously we did towards the end of the season. I want to go around now and just ask. Before I do that, Josh, you mentioned something then actually about from minute 1 we could see what was happening last night. Me and Neil, I won't say me and Neil, I was on the stream, but Neil did all the analysis. It was the match analysis of the Man United game, and a couple of really, really interesting things that Anil brought up were clips from pre-season. And it was honestly just hilarious watching it back, because the same thing is happening today. The clips that Anil brought up were from the Lons game. So after this video, after this live does end, please go back, people. And if you haven't watched it already, go and watch that live, because it was really good. Seeing the same mistakes happen, 3 months ago. But yeah, going round, Anil, what chances do you give us staying up if Cooper is here until the end of the season?
1%. The writing's on the wall, you can see it. The worst thing that I don't think we're talking about is the players don't like him. That I think is a bigger issue. They're not going to fight for this manager. You could actually be a clueless manager but still get performances out of them. We've got the worst thing, where you've got literally a manager that the players despise. Some of them literally despise him. You cannot stay up with that environment.
And the rumours that come out of the club all the time is that the players have already told the board. Some rumours have suggested that they've already told the board that they don't really want him there. And yeah, again, I'll ask the same thing to you, and obviously add anything on you that you want to. What chances do you give us if Cooper's here all season?
I'd say a 50-50, but what worries me is we're getting progressively worse each game. Ipswich, Southampton, and you could even put Wolves into this bracket, are getting better game on game. We're heading in the wrong direction. They're heading in the right direction.
And you're saying that they're getting better, we're getting worse. That's before they've even sacked their managers. Wait until they get a bounce if they do sack. Josh, tell me your turn, mate. I'm sorry. Yeah, what chances do you give us of staying up if he stays?
Yeah, maybe 50-50, maybe a 40-60 in everyone else's favour. I think it largely depends on other teams, obviously, especially in terms of if they sack their managers and whatnot. If you look at someone like Wolves, I think Gary Neal's going to buy some more time after I think he got his first win the other week, didn't he, against Southampton. So, yeah, it depends on a lot of external things, but just on Leicester internally, very little chance, if anything.
Yeah, I mean,
just
to give people... Go on.
Sorry,
yeah.
No, I was going to say, coming back to the manager again, like if you remember the Great Escape season, there was actually something quite big in that season that changed. And that's that we changed the tactical setup. But that's the difference between playing for your manager and not. So in January, we signed some extra players, and then Pearson went 3-5-2. He goes Vasilevsky, Morgan, and Hoof. We play wing backs, right? And then we go on this great run, and it worked. But the problem is that it's not just that this manager, I think, tactically doesn't know what he's doing. I think that even if he changes the tactics, I don't think the player is going to be up for the fight. That's why I give it such a low percentage chance, and why I think we have to change the manager. Sorry, just wanted to interrupt and say that.
No, yeah, mate, honestly, I appreciate that, because what I was going to do was I was going to go to the odds, and these are the odds of the next Premier League manager to be sacked. So the favourite is Russell Martin, and then it's Lopetegui, then it's Glasner, then it's Gary O'Neill, then it's Ange Postecoglou, and then at 12-1, it's Steve Cooper. That has come down a bit over the last 24 hours or 48 hours. It was 18 or 19-1. Now it's 12-1. Probably again because of a lot of the rumours that have been going around. The odds have come down a bit. But that is so... Because it's just scary that those managers are more a favourite over Cooper to lose their job first. I don't know what to say. Josh, please help me out here, mate. I mean...
Well, if it's 20-1, I might put a few quid on it. It's pretty good odds, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Conscious says the problem with Cooper is that on top of the awful underlying stats and uninspiring football, it feels like the vibes around the team are awful. I mean, I've seen people this season, certain people on social media, say that the players look like they're fighting Cooper. I mean, that's not the case, is it? They don't. What are they going off? Is it just because we've come from behind in a couple games and we've... What is it? Why did some people think that?
I don't know. I struggle to see it. And the big moment for me where it's like, a lot of these players and big players for us aren't buying into Steve Cooper was, that interview after the Forest game from Winks. Yeah. For me, that was a very telling interview because those kind of things probably go on all the time behind closed doors. to come out and publicly say that on Sky Sports, for me, that was a very big sign. And even, when we've won games, like you look at the celebrations after the Southampton game, you look at the videos of the celebrations after Bournemouth games. Last year when we won games, like Enzo Maresca was in the thick of it celebrating with the players and fans. I could be wrong on this, but I don't remember seeing anything of Steve Cooper really celebrating with the fans, because every time he used to win games at Forest, he used to do that, like the free cheers and all of that, like running towards their fans. I haven't seen any of that from him.
No, I think it's just a little clap and then he goes back down, and that tells you everything, doesn't it? But
yeah, and his mate Alan Tate, who looks like I don't know what he looks like. I will comment. He looks like a slob. But anyway, so last thing I want to mention, it's not really about Cooper. And Neil, I want to just get your thoughts on this, because I saw it today and I thought it was interesting. We should bring it up. Harry Winks said he believes Leicester's 3-0 loss at the hands of United was a misleading result that didn't reflect the performance on the day. He said, we didn't deserve to lose. They didn't dominate. It was moments of switching off. We played really well. I mean, he's chatting shit, isn't he?
A little bit, but I think I know why he's saying this. And I think this actually comes back to the point that Ant was talking about. So you've said that, like, the players aren't playing for the manager, but some people say that they are. So what it appears to me is I think that the players in the dressing room are actually quite close and they actually have a good relationship with one another. That's sometimes not the case with teams that struggle. I think they do believe in one another, and I think they've got an idea of how they want to play, and they want to play the way that they played last season. So the reason why I think Harry Winks is saying that is that Harry Winks is saying that, like, we don't just want to be what will happen, right? Is that another manager will come in and he'll be like, no, you've got to go low block, you've got to play defensive, you've got to play horrible football and get yourself out of trouble. They want to play this kind of more expansive style, right? And that's why they changed Cooper to get the style back and put, like, what's interesting, for example, is they started out of the team, but slowly but surely they dragged back in Mavadidi, then Fatawu, then Ricardo, then Vestergaard. All the boys were coming back, right? So I'm saying there must be a tight dressing room for that to happen. And I think that's how they really want to play. So that's why I think he's saying that. The other thing I will say is that individually, I think Harry Winks actually had a very good game. He was actually, we showed it on the analysis, like he was making some great passes to find the room and stuff like that. So he might feel that a little bit. And, the XG does show that Man United didn't completely spank us. Like, it's more that they scored moments of quality. But that's where I think it's coming from. I think for him, he's got to still, though, it'd be interesting to see if some people in the squad end up becoming managers. Like, I wonder if Harry Winks will end up becoming a manager. Like, he obviously sees himself as being like one of those deep-lying playmaker types, right? It's probably bought into Enzo's football. But I wonder if he himself is seeing both, like, the good and the bad, because, what happened to Burnley last season is he had company who had this idea of playing football, and it works at Bayern Munich, but it didn't work at Burnley. And like Steve Cooper's system, I think it's flawed. But for example, if you played that system with, let's say, Postecoglou's squad at Spurs, you're not going to be in a relegation zone. You might not be top 4, but it would work better for them, right? But his style is blatantly not working. But what I don't know is if the Enzo style would also work with the current squad. It might not do. And does Harry Winks want to admit that? Maybe he doesn't, because, that's how he ended up losing his place at Spurs, is they played more of a kind of counter-attacking system. And Mourinho and Nuno were like, well, he's not going to fit this system on Conte. And he ended up getting sent out.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't need to go around and ask, are you Cooper out? I know we're all Cooper out, and I don't need to put a poll in the chat because I know everybody in the chat is also Cooper out. For the next 60 seconds, everybody spam out if you hate Steve Cooper. Not hate him, but you want him gone. Spam it for the next 6 seconds. Josh, mate, what is coming up on Sports over the next few days? Because I know it's pretty grim international break, so there's not much to talk about, but
yeah, it's boring season, isn't it, for content? But I'm going to try and do a few videos, try and dissect what's really going wrong potentially. Obviously, there's a lot going wrong, we all know that. But apart from that, obviously, back with the usual vlogs when we come back. And obviously, there's a lot of games now into the Christmas period, so it's going to be busy for all of us, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And, mate, what's coming up?
So trying to do daily live streams at the moment of discussing all Leicester news. It's becoming difficult because obviously at the moment, international break. Gonna hopefully have a watch along tomorrow night for the England game as well, and then matchday blogs returning for the Chelsea game, which I I don't think I could have chosen a much worse one to come back for, if I'm honest. But
yeah, it's gonna be. You know what? I'm dreading that day. I'm dreading that Chelsea game. And Neil, I mean, there's no match preview from you this week, but yeah, I don't know if you want to say anything.
Well, I was going to say, I have no idea what I'm going to do, but if I don't do something, my boss, which is Locks, is going to have a go at me. So I better come up with something pretty quickly. So any ideas in chat, give me one before my boss fires me.
Yeah, well, I am hoping to get out on the channel later this week a debate, another blue tinted debate. So I need to try and find some people to debate, but yeah, we'll get some out. And the reason today we didn't touch too much, there is a talking point we didn't discuss, which is about the players' body language, which I do want to get on to, and that's going to be on Sunday morning. Good morning, Foxes will be back. So yeah, join us for that. We're not sure who's going to be on it yet, but I will let you know closer to the time. As I said before, please make sure to support Sports of YouTube and also Ant's Leicester fan channel. As I said, the international break is pretty grim for content creators because there's not much to talk about, and we're just trying to pluck ideas out of thin air. So, cheers all. Thank you for watching. Make sure to hit like, subscribe, and we will see you later in the week. Bye.